The much anticipated release of Procreate Dreams has just happened very recently. I, for one, am very excited. The app's finally out, it's in the wild, and we can all use it. So I'm going to show you exactly how to get started, how to use the app, what everything does, and how to create your own hand-drawn frame-by-frame animations in Procreate Dreams. I'll also show you how I put together this little clip, which is a combination of footage and music from Envato Elements, and then some hand-drawn illustrations over the top of it to add kind of, I guess, motion design, but in this hand-drawn animation style. All right, so let's get into the app. I'll give you a brief overview of how to use it, and then I'll jump into exactly how I put together that example. Alrighty, so when you first open up Procreate Dreams, this is what you are shown. So there's 3 projects in here: the beach, Spark, and Into the Future. Now you can see these are .dream files. That's the new Procreate Dream file structure. Effectively, these are like your Premiere Pro files or your After Effects files or Photoshop files. It's basically everything encapsulated into one new file type, which means that you can then share these files with your friends who are also using Procreate Dreams or other collaborators. Maybe you work in a studio or a design agency or things like that. This is the new file format to share these projects around. So that's what .dream is. So these are the projects that they load you up with to get started. So we'll just open up one and see what it looks like. They're very in-depth, much more than I can create in this little tutorial here. So this is the beach. Oh, it's actually called the breach. There you go, I guess because it's a whale. So we'll just scrub through here and have a little play through, and you can see these are pretty impressive animations. Now these projects here are fully fleshed out, so if I click on any of the layers here, I can go in and edit them and see how things are put together. So you can get a really good idea of the professional level of project that you can aim for with the app. Obviously, when you're just starting out, you're probably not going to get to this level right away, but it is really nice that they put these projects in here to start with, so you can kind of go in, pick it apart, see how they've put it together, and start to make your workflow. But let's move on to exactly how to get started in the app. So I'm just going to tap this button here, which will take you back out to the dashboard. Now, if you have used Procreate, this will look somewhat familiar. If you tap this here, it just gives you your projects. This gives you some different locations, some storage locations, either your iCloud Drive or on your iPad. To create a new one, you go into the top right corner with the plus button here, and you're given a few different options for the screen size. So you've got 4K widescreen, and both of these, all of these will give you the option to start in the draw panel or in an empty panel. So we've got 4K widescreen, which is a 16:9 format. You've got 4K ultra widescreen, so you've got that kind of more cinematic aspect ratio. You've got your tall social, you've got your square social, and then you've got screen size. So that's a size of the device that you're using. In this case, it's an iPad Pro, so that would default to the screen size for the iPad Pro, but also in that kind of 4K resolution. We're just going to go with a standard here, 4K widescreen. Now, before you do jump into it, if you want to, from the top, you can change the frames per second and the duration. We're gonna leave it as it is defaulted right now, and we'll change that once we get into the project. So I'm just going to click on empty. So once it opens up, it's relatively straightforward. You've got a timeline section down the bottom. You've got some transport controls, or if you're thinking of it from an editing perspective, you've got some transport controls up here. And then you've got some information over on the left-hand side. Again, you hit that button to go back out to your dashboard. And then next to it where the title is, you can also hit that and it will bring up your settings. Now, as it stands right now, I'm 99% sure, tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, I'm 99% sure that I cannot change the name of this project in the settings here. You have to go back out to the dashboard, then you can click and long hold on here, and then you can rename. So we'll just rename this Getting Started. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can't name it in the project as it currently stands. I assume that they'll work through that in future builds. This is day 1 build. So we'll jump back into the settings here just to give you an overview of what you're seeing. So you've got your properties here. So 50 frames per second is what we're working in. I'm actually going to drop that down to 12 for the example that we'll use here. But you can see you've got some different settings. You've got anime, which I guess is at 15 frames per second as a standard. Cinema, 24, which yes, depending on what area you're in, 24 makes sense. Television, 30. PAL, 50 frames per second. For animation, yes, generally 25 frames per second for video. NTSC, 60, and then mobile 120 frames per second. I'm not 100% sure why they've gone with mobile 120 frames per second, but if you did want a very high frame rate animation, 120 frames per second would be very smooth, but remember that's 120 frames per second that you've got to animate when you're going frame by frame animation. Something to think about. Let's go with 12 frames. You can then set the duration of your timeline. If you know exactly how long you need it to be, you can do that. If you're kind of just playing around with it, don't worry about it. Then you can do your width and your height, so you can change your custom resolution here. I've got it at 3840 by 2160, which is the standard 4K or Ultra HD. Made by unknown author. I think I can go in here and change that. Tom Graham. And then it obviously shows you the date when you made it. If you go down to stage, there's an option here for onion skins to blend the primary frame. Let's not worry about that right now. I'm going to talk about onion skins when we get into the actual animation segment. Timeline, so you can do loop, ping pong, or one shot. One shot is from the start to the end, and then it stops. Ping pong is from the start to the end to the start, end, start. Ping pong's back and forward. And loop is start, end, start, end, start, end. It loops around. Relatively self-explanatory. Then you've got the sharing settings here, so you can share it as a video. You can share like specific frames out as images, which I think is really good. You can share the current frame, and then you can share the Procreate Dreams file, which is what I talked about at the start, the actual new file format. And then there's some different custom settings here for export. Play around with them, see if they work for you. Got preferences here, so you've got your brush size and opacity slider over to the right-hand side or the left. I have it on the left. I've used Procreate for a while. It's on the left in Procreate, so I just leave it that way. You've got just some different options depending on how you want to work with the pencil, with your finger. So go through and again, see what works for you. I've left it on default so far and it's working well for me. Hitting done here, we're going back to our project. So like I said, we've got the timeline at the bottom. If you're used to editing, once we start putting things in here, you'll see those layers start to build up like we did with the example before. Then you've got the play button here, so that will play through your animation. You've got the record button here, which I'll show you exactly what that does, but effectively you can have an element, say on the left-hand side of the project here, you hit record, you can move it across with your Apple Pencil, and once you stop, it will stop recording, but it will have recorded that movement as keyframes. So that's how you can kind of animate with your pen as well in real time. Then you've got the timeline edit button here. I'll show you how that works once we've got some things on the timeline. Then you've got the draw and paint tab. This is where all the magic happens. And then you've got the plus button here to add tracks, photos, videos, text, and files. So let's start by adding a track. We're going to go add track here. And now you can see it's pretty dull, but in real life, you can kind of just see it here. A little gray bar has gone down. This track here means we can now start drawing in it. So I'll just put this back to the start and I'll go to our draw and paint tab, which brings up this little canvas here. And if you have used Procreate, you might be familiar with all of this, but if you haven't, brushes are up here. This is your drawing section where you can pick all of your different brushes. You've got smudge and you've got erase. And again, those you can pick different brushes to do your smudging and erasing. And then you've got your layers, which I can't do at the moment because I don't have any layers selected. And then over here, you've got your color wheel. So you can pick whatever color you want to use. You've got some history here, you've got different vibrancies, you've got different options as well of how you pick your color. So this is more of like a hue, saturation, intensity section. Then you've got harmony, you've got value, and then you've got palettes as well. And you can create palettes and you can import palettes too. Have a play with that. I'm just going to keep it on disk. It's nice and easy. It looks cool. Let's go something nice and bright here, and we'll just pick something to start drawing with. Let's just go a gel pen, they're kind of fun. Actually, you can see here, I've just accidentally made like a little mark. 2 fingers in Procreate on the screen, just tap, that's undo. So if you haven't used Procreate before, that's undo. If you have used Procreate before, all of those gestures carry over into Procreate Dreams. Over on the left-hand side, you've got your brush size here, smaller or larger, and you've got your brush opacity, smaller or larger as well. Now, again, let me know in the comments if I'm missing this somewhere, but in Procreate, there's usually a button here which is a color picker, and you can drag that over onto your image and you can pick the color and that will become your brush color. I can't find that right now. If it exists in the app somewhere, please let me know in the comments. I hope they bring this forward into future builds if it's not actually currently in here. Again, we're working with the day 1 release here. All right, so let's create something. You can see here we've got a bit of a gray outline on this box. It's a bit hard to see even in real life, but I'm just going to outline it here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. There's a gray box there, and that's the frame within which we're working. That's our 4K frame. And then everything on the outside here, that is not captured within the actual window of what we're working in. Now, it means that you can have things kind of go outside the frame if you want and be kind of masked off by the edge of the frame. Or then you can have other elements over from the side which then are dragged through in like an animated kind of left to right style. So let me clear all of this and I'll show you what I actually mean by all of that. So to start doing frame by frame animation, what you're going to do once you've picked all of your settings, there's a little button just here in the middle between the top frame and the bottom timeline. If you grab that and drag it down, you go into flipbook mode, which is your frame by frame animation. So each of these down here are your frames. So let's just do a super basic thing here where we have a ball bouncing. I know it's super basic, but it's a good way to show kind of frame by frame animation without spending too much time, because it does take a bit of time. So we can go just a little ball at the top here. That's a ball, use your imagination. And then we go to the next frame and you can see there it's disappeared because there's nothing on this frame. But what happens if I want to continue that motion down? Well, you can have a thing called an onion skin. So if I press down here on the timecode, bottom left-hand side, you'll give your staging options and your onion skin options are there as well. So I can go show onion skin and that will show up. Now an onion skin is effectively the ghost of the previous frame. So it's not there on the new frame, but it gives you a reference point of where that element was so that when you're moving to the next frame and animating it, you can sequence it out. You can change the onion skin colors here. You can change the amount of frames they appear for, the opacity, and you'll see what that means as we go forward. So I'm just going to click off that there and then continue this down. So again, that's the first frame, second frame here. So we'll make it there, third frame here. And I'm just going to go through and do this and we'll show the ball bouncing. So now that I've done that, I can hit done and we can play it forward and you'll see we have a basic ball bouncing animation. Now again, I said use your imagination. That is a ball. But you can imagine what you can do here. So it's a ball bouncing nonetheless. But what else can we do in this very basic example while we're getting started? Well, I want to show you how the record button works. So I'm just going to pause this for now and I'm going to create a new track. Now the reason I'm creating a new track is because I want to move a different element within this on the same frame. So I'm just going to go back to the start of our animation. I'm going to go back into our draw and paint here and I'm going to pick a completely different color, something that just definitely stands out amongst this color that we've already got. This time I'm not even going to go down to the flipbook because it doesn't matter. So let's just put this triangle here, like so. That's not a very good triangle. So you know what, I'm going to do a square. A square is easier than doing a triangle. All right, so now you can see that that is just going to play there and it's one long continuous file. You can also see that it's outside the bounds of our box here. So if I hit play on this view, it's not actually showing up in our animation. So what I need to do is I need to go into this timeline view here. I'm going to hit the record button. And what that means is when I select this square that I've drawn, which is outside the current bounds, and I click and drag it, it's going to track my movements and record that. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. So how about I just grab this and boing and do that. Again, we're going very basic, boing, great. We're going to hit done here and then I'm going to go back and we're going to play it and you'll see exactly what I mean. So now it has tracked that motion, boing, and we've got an animation happening where the ball bounces frame by frame, but then the square comes in and it bounces because we've dragged that across. Now, I think that's a really, really fun way to do animation. Again, we're going basic shapes here. Can you imagine what it's like when you bring in something maybe from Illustrator or something you've designed in Procreate already, which is all layered out? You can drag the whole body along and then maybe the background along as well in a different motion so you kind of get a bit of parallax. And then you can also animate the arms and legs moving frame by frame. Already I'm seeing a lot of potential here. All right, so this is a good way to also show you how to kind of clean up your timeline as well, because now we've got a few different assets on here. So I'm just going to zoom out with my fingers here. So I'm just pinching, it's pretty intuitive. I'm going to zoom all the way out here and I'm just going to grab the very end of this frame and I'm going to drag it down. And that's effectively editing that down. Now I'm going to zoom back in, so we're just seeing this part of the timeline, and let's see when this bounces out. Cool, so we've got that whole piece there. Now the ball bouncing that we used before here is still in individual frames, which can get a little bit messy if I accidentally grabbed one and then moved it or things like that. So you can go to the timeline edit tool here and you can just use your pencil and circle things on the timeline, and you can see that's kind of magically selected it all now. Now if I hold my Apple Pen down on these, I can go group. Now, if I unselect my timeline edit tool and zoom in on this and hold down, then I can go rename and we'll just call this ball. And then if I do want to go in and see those individual frames again, I can just hit this little caret menu and you've got all those individual frames again that we can go and edit and make bigger or smaller or whatever we want to do. Yeah, kind of world's your oyster when it comes to this stuff. Really fun, really intuitive. The other thing that I just want to show you as well here, which we'll get into very shortly, is the other things that you can add. So adding a track is basically adding a new track to add animation onto. Adding photos and video, that comes out of your camera roll. Adding text, it's relatively self-explanatory, and I will get into that when we go into the skate example. And then from files, that's where you can kind of bring in other files and other assets from your files section of your iPad. So that's the basic overview of how to get started and how to use Procreate Dreams. Let's jump into that skate example now, and I'll show you how I did some of the techniques. So I'm going to create a new file here. I'm going to go 4K widescreen again, and I'm going to hit empty. Now, again, I have to go back out to name it, so I'm just going to name that here. Hold and click, and then we'll call this Skater. Now I'm going to go into that project, and I'm going to go the plus button here, and I'm going to go Files. I'm going to go to where I've got things saved, and you'll see in this section here, I have a whole bunch of different assets that I can bring in and use to edit. Now I will say, again, we're working with day one release here and things may change, or I just may have the wrong impression, but I believe that you are supposed to be able to bring in a whole suite of different video types, but I had trouble bringing in .mov files. That may change with a firmware update or a new build, but I would like to be able to bring in .mov files in the future because you can carry transparency over in those, and I think being able to have transparent video in this app is going to be an absolute game changer for people like me who do a lot of video work and motion design work. So to get around that, I moved it all into an MP4 format, and I actually just did a little edit that I could bring in and work with. So that's this one I've got here. So I'm just going to select it, hit open, and then that will import. Let's just play it through and we'll see what we're working with. So it's just a basic little skate clip here. So let's add some hand-drawn animation onto this, almost in a motion design way, to kind of see how we can make this just a little bit more visually interesting. I'll show you a few different techniques, and remember this is frame-by-frame animation, so it does take a little bit of time and a bit of patience. So how about we move to the very front here? And on this one, we'll just jump in and we'll just do like a little neon glow around his shirt. So I'm going to go plus, add a track, and then I'm going to go into draw and paint. I'm going to pull down on the flipbook here, making sure I'm on the first frame, which I am. Going to select, I've got a luminance brush here. The light pen works pretty well for this, or the light brush. I might just do light pen for now. I'll do that. I'm gonna go maybe something like a fun purple. And let's just see if this is the right size. Just go a bit bigger. Great. All right, so now I'm just going to, again, move with my fingers here so I can get a bit, more leverage to draw. I'm just gonna draw the first frame. So there we go. Move to the second frame. Onion skins haven't stayed on, so I'm going to turn onion skins on there. And then I'm just going to continue around his whole body. And as you can see, frame by frame animation does take a little bit of time. So we're just gonna go through this and I'll outline his whole shirt. All right, so now that I've done that, I can go through and I can just pull back between these different frames here so you can kind of see what we've worked with. Or I can hit done and we can play that back in situ. Cool, so that works really well. I like the way it goes around his shirt, and I think when he looks down at the camera, around about here, I want something on the skateboard to happen. So let's jump back into this, and I'm gonna stay in the same track. I'm gonna jump back in and I'm going to change the color to maybe something a bit yellow, a bit more vibrant. That works pretty well. And I think, yeah, it's as he's looking down at the camera, I'm gonna start illustrating over the top of the wheels. So slightly different to what we did before. I'm going to start this here, like so. And then I'm gonna move to the next frame. I'm not going to just continue the line like I did before. I'm going to draw over the current line I've got and continue it. And that way, the full circle will happen and stay on screen. And something you do have to note as well when you're doing this stuff to keep it on screen is that you wanna make sure that you are tracking with the image and not just following the onion skins, because the image will move over time, because it's a moving image, and you wanna make sure that it's tracking with that movement rather than just kind of tracking where the onion skins were at the start. And I'm gonna do a few frames where I'm doing the full circle outline of the wheels here. And then I will finish the rest of this shot with coloring in the wheels. So I'll just do a few more frames of this. And it can be rough as well because this is all hand drawn. It's supposed to be a bit jagged and a bit kind of, rough and ready. So we've done the outline there, and the rest now I'm just going to scribble in the wheels. So I'll just do that really quickly. So now you can see I've just clicked to the next frame, which is on the next shot, or the first frame of the next shot. So we no longer need to continue. So I'm going to hit done, and we're going to play that back and see what it looks like. Looks cool. I like it. I really like it. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and make sure that we've tidied up our timeline here. We're going to hit timeline edit. We're going to circle this section and we're going to hold down and group that. I'm going to circle this section as well. Also going to hold down and group that. Now it has made a full group because we're on the same track. Again, you can hit that little caret there and it will drop down into those different groups if you do need to get to those individual clips again. On this section here, I'm going to write the word skate over the top, and then I'm going to change the blending mode to be kind of, interesting and a bit fun. So let's change the blending mode on that in a second. I do have to write skate about 400 times now, so bear with me. So I'm going to do this on a different layer, pressing the plus again, hitting track, going back into our draw and paint, finding a different color that we want to use. Maybe this time we'll use like kind of a teal color, I think. Making sure we're on the exact right frame, which is this one here. And here we go. This starts the journey of me writing skate about 400 times. Okay, I officially feel like Bart Simpson at the start writing, whatever he's writing on the chalkboard. That's a lot of writing. Let's hit done and see what it looks like. Cool, looks pretty cool. Timeline edit again, circle that, hold down and go group. And then we're going to go to blend mode. I'm gonna bring this over the top so we can actually see. Hold down and go to blend mode. And let's go to something like, I think probably exclusion might work. Yeah, let's do that and see what that looks like. Yeah, that's cool. You can see there, you get that kind of like almost X-ray effect. Love it. I'm not going to go through and show you every little element for every scene, but some other things I do want to show you are things like the text effects. Actually, before I get into that, I'll just show you a couple of other little bits and pieces now that we've got some things on our timeline. If I tap on this and then tap our little timeline button here, there's options for move, filter, and edit. So move just means that you can kind of move and scale the actual piece here, like that's what I'm talking about, as a group, which is really nice. You can do other things like warp and distort, but you can't do it on this specific piece of footage, so don't worry about that. All right, let's undo those things that I've done there. You can also do some filters as well. So you've got opacity filters, so you can actually just change the opacity of what we've done, which is really nice. Actually, let's just move that down slightly less as we had it. You can then go to a Gaussian blur, so you can add some blur across it. You've got sharpen if you want to make it a bit sharper. You've got HSB as well, so you can change the hue, saturation, and brightness. If you're not happy with what you've done after the fact, you can change that. So let's say we wanted to make this like a purple or red color, we can do that. I'm going to leave it as is. So there you go. There's just a few extra things that you can do, and then edit as well. Let's say you wanted this clip to actually split here. You can do edit, then you can split the clip and move that around on the timeline if you need. So moving on to some other techniques in here. I'm not gonna show you every little pen stroke for this video, but I wanna show you some other really important things. So let's add some text. I'm gonna go through and find where I wanna add that. It's gonna be on this shot. So we've just written skate, obviously that's some text, but that's writing skate the whole time. We can actually add text in here in the font sense, which is really good, so you don't have to write it 400 times. So let's just move all of this around so we know what we're working with. Again, I'm going to create another track, and then on that track, I'm going to add some text. So on this text, I'm going to go all day. So it's effectively saying skate all day. Going to double check on this here, select all, and then over here, you can go to the edit styles. So let's go something big. We'll go all impact, and then we're going to just increase the size of that. I'm going to keep it on 2 lines. Let's go all caps. And we are going to not outline it. Yeah, let's just make this a bit bigger. We'll adjust the kerning a little bit. Bit hard to see at the moment. I'm going to change the color in a second. Actually, let's change the color now so you can actually see it. And then we can go back into format. We can change the kerning as I've already done. We can change the leading a little bit. I'm going to put that up like so. We've made it as big as we can make it in terms of font, but we can increase the size momentarily. So I'm going to hit done there. And now if I tap on this, just going to bring it back onto the shot I'm working in. Then I can just drag this out and increase the size. And let's move it basically to fill the entire screen with a little bit of gap top and bottom. And we want to trim it. So we want to make sure that it's on the exact right frame that we are on. So I'm just going to zoom in all the way here. I do feel like we are lacking some fine control in terms of like the editing part of the timeline, but it's okay. We can make it work here. So that's the first frame. And then we'll find our last frame, which is that one there. I'm going to tap on that again. I'm going to go edit. I'm going to go split. Now we've split that, and now I can hold down on this and go delete content, and that way you've got your cut. I'm one frame over by the looks of it. Oh no, that's worked. So let's play that through. Great. Now what I want to do is I want to use that as a mask. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to bring this piece of footage all the way down. So it's sitting above our video, but what I've actually done is moved that away from exactly the frame that we needed it on. So let's just go back and fix that again. Like I said, we're lacking a little bit of fine control. Yeah, cool, that works. So holding down on this, I'm going to go to mask, and I'm going to call this a layer mask, and we'll put that there. And that way you can see that's masked out now. And we can do other things like change the color or change what's written over there. And I might go through and do some animation around the blank space here, or I might completely change my mind and make this actually colored text over the top, but we'll see. We'll see how it looks in the actual edit. So that's how to add text. So there we go. We've looked at how to add text. We've looked at how to write text and use some blending modes and then some of the other filters and stuff that are in here. We've looked at how to edit, and we've also looked at how to kind of do these hand-drawn animations in the draw and paint section as well. Again, not going to go through and show you every little pen stroke, but I will put the final file up so you can have a look at it right now. So there we go, Procreate Dreams is out. We've got the app in our hands. We can play with it now. I'm really excited. Like, I'm not an animator. I'm not an illustrator in the kind of, technical sense of the word. I'm a motion designer. I would actually like to see a few more motion design centric tools in here. Like, we've got the ability to bring text in, but being able to kind of manipulate shape layers and things like that, I think would be really good. And I could see this maybe, not for everything, but maybe kind of replacing After Effects a little bit in my workflow if those motion design tools come into it. But from an illustration sense, I really want to know what you guys think of it. Let us know down in the comments if you're excited to jump in or if you've already been playing with it over the last few days, and what you think of Procreate Dreams and what you'd like to see in the app going forward and how you might use it. Now, make sure to get subscribed to the Envato Tuts Plus channel. Stay tuned because we are going to have a lot more content in Procreate Dreams. We've got some great illustrators and animators who are coming on board to make in-depth tutorial content about how to make, proper, almost animated short films within this. So stay tuned, get subscribed, and until next time, happy animating.